Introducing the acid reflux strategy. These 3 everyday ingredients healed my heartburn in the nick of time after acid reflux caused this deadly disease. You're about to learn how I eliminated my acid reflux, using 3 dirt cheap ingredients you most likely already have in your kitchen. It only took me 4 to 5 minutes to make this home remedy. And as I took the first sip, I felt my heartburn melt away. Acid reflux is more dangerous than smoking. The researchers concluded. Millions of people die every year because they don't take their heartburn seriously enough. And there I was, ready to be another name on a grave. It wasn't my fault, really. I'll explain in a second how I finally got rid of my acid reflux using a simple home remedy that takes only 4 or 5 minutes to make. You most likely have all the ingredients sitting in your kitchen. So, if you want, you should be able to take the first sip within 10 minutes from now. Had I known about this remedy before, I would not have received the dire news that day. But with what I knew then, I couldn't have done much differently. Like most people suffering heartburn, I was loading up on proton pump inhibitors (PPI) medications thinking they were safe. Well, they are not. According to a study from Washington University in St. Louis, PPI drugs increase your risk of dying within a year by a terrifying 50%. Another study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association, proved that PPI pills drastically increase your risk of stroke. And, in a new study from the University of Hong Kong and University College London published in the peer-reviewed journal Gut6, these same drugs were found to double your risk of stomach cancer. Maybe worst of all, they also double your risk of kidney disease. Hey, I can live with stomach ulcers, but I can't live without my kidneys or stomach. Other heartburn medications, such as antacids and H2 blockers, such as Tums and Zantac, may or may not be a little bit safer. However, numerous studies have also found a row of life-threatening side effects from these drugs. Putting it bluntly, it's a matter of life and death that you naturally address your acid reflux immediately today. Don't put it off another day. Plus, these drugs cost a fortune. When my insurance company stopped copaying for my medication a few years back, I had to shuffle out over $5,000 a year for heartburn prescriptions. Even after I turned to cheaper over-the-counter PPIs, I was still paying close to $2,000 a year for drugs that were actually murdering me. Okay, finally, some good news. Additional testing luckily revealed that my cancer diagnosis was a false alarm, false positive, they called it. At that point, however, I was informed enough to realize I had gotten a second chance at life. But it wouldn't last long unless I cured my acid reflux as soon as possible. PPI and other heartburn medications only temporarily mask the symptoms. They do not cure your acid reflux or GERD. Therefore, they do nothing to protect you from dying from cancer and other causes. In fact, they drastically increase your risk of dying. So, I knew I had to handle my acid reflux naturally. Which is easier said than done. The internet is full of well-meaning tips for acid reflux. I'm sure you've tried everything from baking soda to just carrying around Tums everywhere you go. When other common wisdom, such as sleeping sitting up, not eating spicy food, and avoiding sugar, chocolates, and tomato sauce, is to no avail, you are running out of options, aren't you? So, you get what I was facing. Finally, my luck changed when a friend referred me to a man named Scott Davis. Scott is somewhat of a legend in the natural health research field. He has come up with solutions for numerous health issues the traditional medical system has no answer for. Among those are acid reflux and GERD disease. At the age of 84, he dedicated most of his time to research and was not seeing many people in person. In fact, he seemed quite irritated having to deal with such a mundane issue as my acid reflux. You see, for someone like you and me, who have endured the pain of acid reflux for so long, curing it deserves the Nobel Prize and its $1 million award, right? Scott, however, had helped so many people with heartburn, it had become an old hat. It wasn't a challenge for him anymore. He only helped me because my friend was Scott's nephew, and really expressed how desperate I was. Well, he did charge me $200 for a 30-minute session, which I, at that time, thought was kind of a rip-off. That is until I realized how effective his method is. In fact, this is the best investment I have made. Scott, not just because of my health but also because I'm saving almost $2,000 every year in medications. I don't mind effortlessly banking extra $2,000 a year. Would you? That's 1,000% return on investment every year, beat that, Wall Street. But obviously, saving my health and life was my only motivation that day. Scott told me that the 3-step system he had developed works for pretty much anyone, and if I followed it in detail, it would help me too. Let's see. I thought to myself, quite skeptical. As Scott gently shuffled me out the door, he gave me a printout of 43 pages listing the 3 steps he wanted me to take. Part 1 was his quick fix, including his simple acid reflux remedy. I could make the remedy right away, as it included only 3 ingredients I already had in my kitchen. I was amazed to feel the pain melt away. That night, I slept through without any bloating, burbling, or throat burning for the first time in decades. Imagine the joy of waking up the next day feeling great. No gasping for air and spitting up acid before breakfast. I made the formula again in the morning, and the whole day passed without any reflux. This was great. Several days and nights passed without any heartburn issues. I drank a glass of the formula 2 to 3 times a day. And it was keeping my stomach in great shape. Sometimes, I would add 1 or 2 of the extra herbs Scott recommended to boost the effectiveness of his remedy even further. Herbs number 6 and 9 on his list were especially effective, and I could get them from any supermarket along with the other ingredients. The best part was being able to eat and drink anything I wanted, even fattening and heavy comfort food, which can really cause heartburn. I could have coffee in the morning, a glass of red wine in the evening, and even a bit of spicy food for lunch. I didn't dare try spicy for dinner. Heck, I had even forgotten that a sip of bourbon wasn't supposed to be painful. All I did was make sure that I had a shot of Scott's remedy when I knew I was going to eat or drink something that I shouldn't. Every day, I felt powerful and full of energy and focus. This was amazing because I had tried literally hundreds of home remedy recipes before I met Scott. The internet is full of those recipes. I'm sure Scott's remedy has been ripped off somewhere, although I haven't seen it anywhere else. But you'd have to literally go through thousands of failures before finding it, if you ever do. Some of those online remedies I tried helped a little for a few days, but they always stopped working. Others made my pain worse. Scott's remedy has never failed me. That's except when I failed Scott. What do I mean by failing Scott? You know what happens when we get a good thing going. We too quickly forget the hard times. And, little by little, I began to forget taking the remedy. I would run out of the ingredients or forget to take it with me when traveling. Or, most idiotic of it all, sometimes, I thought I didn't have 5 minutes to spare to make it. Imagine having a remedy that you know would eliminate your acid reflux every time, and you just decide in your mind that it's not worth 5 minutes to make it. Well, my brain is obviously not the brightest. And that was okay for a few days. Until one night, when the reflux assaulted me with full force again. As luck would have it, it was exactly a night spent in a hotel, where I had none of the ingredients needed. Worst night of my life. Most of it was spent with my head in the toilet. That's when I got it. Just like prescription medications, the remedy was dealing only with the symptoms. It is, of course, natural and not causing any side effects. But no matter how effective it wasn't curing my acid reflux. I had promised Scott not to get stuck with the remedy and also take the 2 other steps in his system. Well, this night reminded me of that promise. And the hours that passed before I could get to a supermarket and buy the ingredients for the formula nailed that memory in deeply. When I got home, I immediately began working Scott's program for real. The next step was to give my stomach a break. It wasn't enough to use the mixture that soothed my stomach. I actually had to cut out the foods that were triggering it. Scott had given me a list of foods to look out for, followed by a long list of delicious foods that are good and soothing for the stomach. I got it all wrong before. Okay, I knew about sugar, spicy foods, tomatoes, and many of the other obvious trigger foods. But I had no idea about most of the things on Scott's lists. And here is the thing nobody tells you about acid reflux diets. It is not about avoiding certain types of foods. It's the food combinations in your meals that are much more important. Scott taught me 6 simple fundamentals for food combination for acid reflux. Using these fundamentals, I'm actually able to eat lots of foods that previously would have caused terrible bloating attacks. I just avoid combining these bad foods with other foods that promote heartburn. And finally, the third step. The huge misunderstanding about stress and acid reflux, you know the saying, having a knot in the stomach when someone is stressed or in dread. It's no wonder, because when you are stressed or anxious, you feel it in your guts, right? It's like your intestines are twisted and turned. Now, when acid reflux bloats your stomach, it tricks your body into thinking you're under major stress, even when there is nothing to stress about other than the pain, of course. This triggers your brain to release a ton of stress hormones. This causes you to feel even more stressed, which again gives you that knot in the stomach feeling and triggers acid reflux. It's a vicious circle of heartburn and stress. That's why traditional stress management doesn't ease acid reflux. Scott, meanwhile, taught me 4 powerful techniques, each of which taking only 2 to 3 minutes and focuses on the mind-stomach relationship. I began using these techniques anytime I sensed a small tension in my stomach. And the results were remarkable. Over and over again, tensions that would have transformed into full-blown reflux before would melt away as I did the stress release exercises. All I was left with were this great energy flow and light joy in my guts. Check it out now. Get for more information below of the description. Lornfill.